What if you're doing everything right? Setting boundaries, practicing new habits, shifting your mindset, and still nothing's changing. That's exactly what happened to Amanda. She joined Ambitious and Balanced, determined not to fall back into old habits when she started her new full time job. But for months, it felt like nothing was happening. Now, most people would have given up, but she didn't. And when her breakthrough did happen, it changed everything. Less stress, more confidence, a surprise promotion, and a sense of calm that she hadn't felt in years. In this episode, Amanda shares what it's really like to stay the course when progress feels invisible, and how consistency, not perfection, is what unlocks balance. If you've ever thought, maybe it's just not going to work for me, you need to hear this one because sometimes the transformation is already unfolding. You just haven't seen it yet. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Well, hello, working moms. I am excited to bring to you today an interview with a past client of mine. She was a part of the Ambitious and Balanced cohort. So perfect timing to hear from her as we are in the middle of forming the next cohort of Ambitious and Balanced. So I have Amanda with us. Thank you, Amanda, for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rebecca, for having me.
I'm really excited to hear all that you have to share and your reflections and of your journey and what it's been like for you. And we're going to dig into that here. But before we get started, why don't you just tell us what we should know about you?
Yeah, sure. I am the mom of a young son. He's turning 4 in December, so he knows everything now. I come from
That
an
doesn't
accounting.
stop. Just so you know, my 11-year-old
Oh,
definitely, for sure, still thinks she knows it all. And I only can imagine into teenagers that's going to continue to happen. So,
yeah, I'm a little frightened for when he's a teenager.
okay. So, mom of
So,
an almost 4-year-old.
mom of an almost 4-year-old, and I have been in my particular line of work since college, which is accounting and tax specifically. So, super fun topic that everybody loves to talk about.
No
But
doubt.
um, I mentioned that because that's an important part of my journey along the way. And at different
Yeah.
points, I've dabbled in ideas of doing other things. 2 years ago, I got my 200-hour yoga teaching certificate, which was really awesome and something completely different. I also did a short stint as a barista. So, little fun facts of things that I've done in my adult life.
Definitely didn't know about the barista.
Yeah, it was short lived, but it was a good time. So,
I love it. Oh, good.
yeah.
Well, tell us about why you or like where you were at. I mean, at this point, it would have been earlier in the year. We're coming up to probably, it was January. I think we spoke. So we're coming up to a year that you and I spoke for the first time. But tell
Mhm.
me kind of where you were at in January as you were thinking about joining the next cohort.
Yeah, so I'll backtrack just a little bit because the thought did start well ahead of January. So
Okay.
last November, I was looking to re-enter the workforce full time.
Were you part-time at the time or did you take a break?
Yeah, part-time contracting work. My son had been in daycare since that past May, and so I had kind of just started to want more for myself and my career again last fall, really. But I wasn't exactly sure what that looked like yet. And then this really incredible opportunity presented itself. I was scared to the nines about even talking about it, but I kind of pressed on but what I promised myself along that was if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go back to a full-time job as a working mom, I'm going to get some help. Like I want help. I do not want to do this transition alone. And as you probably heard from my yoga and barista side paths, sometimes I will follow, the things that are really interesting to me at that time when I have the time for it. But sometimes that's just testing the waters to say, like, am I really where I want to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where I was in January. So I had really been like, in my head, I had actually committed since November to join the next cohort.
Oh, I
Um,
love it.
Yeah, but you didn't know until January.
I didn't
So
know until January. Yes.
yeah.
And that's it's coming back to me now, actually, some of that pieces of that conversation, because I remember how we talked about, a lot of imposter syndrome coming back into the workforce full time and at the level you're coming at, right? Like you stepped it up in terms of the next level in your career. And so there was a lot of imposter syndrome, meaning sort of a lack of confidence, some self-doubt about taking this role, let alone the reason why you went part-time, if I recall, to begin with, is that you were experiencing a lack of work-life balance. And so you created it by going part-time, right? But so now there was this fear of like going back into old habits and not wanting to repeat and all these things coming back into this position, right? And if I remember, you tell me if I'm right, but I kind of remember you going, I'm not really sure if this is going to work or not. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of doubt on many fronts around this new adventure you were going into.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I kind of had like tipped my toe in the water, and, accepting a full time role sounds like more than tipping your toe in the water. But mentally, I still had not kind of fully jumped in. And that piece actually took a lot longer, maybe, than I was expecting.
Yeah, yeah, because we definitely talked about that throughout the program, right? And having
Mhm.
to like, we're never gonna know unless you go all in, Amanda.
Yeah.
We can always make a different decision on changing jobs later or doing something different later, but we're never really gonna figure out if you can do this at the level you want and have the balance that you want unless you decide to go all in.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. So that's where you were at. And so those were some of the challenges as you thought about like some of the behaviors that you didn't want to see repeated. What were some of those kinds of challenges that you were worried about and thinking about?
Yeah. So, you know, and again, some of this dates back to kind of the who I was as a tax professional many, many years ago, which was super late hours,
Mm,
not really taking care of my body at all, not managing my relationships well, and just really like work was the number one priority. And so, when I had made that shift to doing part time, that was intentional to say, like, I'd kind of gotten the reins on some of those other things along the way. And in that part time role, I definitely kind of really came into, okay, this is what balance feels like, and this is what feels really good. But again, I still wanted more. Like the one thing that you can give up, not always, but the one thing you kind of give up when you do contract role is that long term career development. And I think since I was a kid, everybody kind of saw me as like some sort of a leader, and I also see myself that way. And so there was this kind of like, okay, if like at some point I really want to do this, and so there the fear was that coming back into this full time role, I was just going to slip back into old habits, and not only just like my own old habits, but some of the habits that maybe I had witnessed when work was stressful in my family growing up,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to see those come out. So I know that's a little vague, but yeah.
I think that that's really, really typical, actually. I have a lot of conversations with potential clients that are thinking about coaching with me, and we talk about this. Like a lot of people find me in transition moments, right? They're transitioning jobs, or they're transitioning into being a working parent, or they're transitioning out of parental leave and back into the work, back into full time work, whatever it might be. And there's this fear that things are going to kind of go back to the way that they are. And my answer to them is, it will, unless you decide to do something different. Like that is the reality of it, right? Like unless you change your behaviors, your habits, your actions, your thoughts, your mindset, like unless you change something, you will in fact go back into the way things were. And the question I usually leave them with is like, do you feel like you can do that on your own, or do you need support, right? Which is what coaching is going to provide you, is that level of support. And so I'm curious how you, I mean, I know the answer at this point because you joined the program on some level, but had to be something inside of you at that point that was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to maintain this by myself.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that was the, like I said, like the promise to myself of like, look, if you're going to take a full time role, like let's do this differently. Like this is me talking to myself, right? Like let's do this differently. Let's find the possible here. Like how can I be a working woman who makes her way kind of up through higher levels of influence and leadership while still being the mom that I want to be. I mean, ultimately last year, like that was my goal. Like I felt like I wanted to be a trailblazer for other women because this shift into being a mom and working full time, like those two just did not go together in my brain. Um, and but at the same time, you know, I had the faith in myself that like I've figured out the hard things before. I can figure this out, but I need some help to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so what really interested you about the ambitious and balanced cohort out of curiosity? What drew you to that in particular?
Yeah. So I really appreciated all of the things, all of the tangible advice that you always give. Like you're very like it's very grounded. It's very like we might be dealing with minds and emotions and thoughts and feelings, but it's still very tangible at the end of the day, like what to do. And I kind of got that sense from listening to the podcast many months ahead of joining. And then the idea of being in that group environment, so being surrounded by other women, you know, that's like the best part is just being in a group with moms of all ages and stages. We had somebody who was about to have their second baby. We had somebody whose daughters are, you know, like like they're grown at this point, right? So we really like just it was beautiful to see kind of the different places that we all are on our journey and just like how helpful this was, no matter what age your kids were, how many kids you had, what stage you were, did you have a partner or not? Like those external factors kind of like don't matter when you're using these tools.
Because we're
And I
kind of like all the same. And
yeah,
I think that's what's we like to think that we're kind of special in the wrong way, like we're special as if these problems nobody else has the problems that I have, and I am like stuck in this, and I am definitely worse off than other people. Right? It's like we like to
yeah,
think that kind of in a not so great way, but then you come into something like this and you see, a variety of working moms and in a variety of different kinds of circumstances, and going, hold on, they all say the same thing that I say to myself. Like their self-talk sounds really similar to mine. Isn't that interesting? Oh, their challenges with their time is very similar to mine. Isn't
hmm
that interesting? Doesn't seem to matter if you have one, two, or three children. Feels the same.
yeah. Well, and that's like what I love about it is that again, kind of like all these other circumstances are different, but but there are things that can help anybody wherever they're at, right? Like that's what I like.
Yeah.
That's what I really saw from that is
The
just
universal tool nature of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. Were you nervous about being a part of a cohort of other women? Like, were you thinking maybe that wasn't right for you, or would you really get everything you wanted out of it? Or what were your thoughts?
Yeah. I think and this came out a few times of just that imposter syndrome. The question that was in my mind was like, do I even want to be doing this? And and that question sometimes felt like, okay, maybe that is a lot more to unpack and probably belongs in like a one-on-one session. Right. But at the same time, like being around the other women and hearing, I do think sometimes in coming into the discussions, it was like, oh, you know, like, should I speak up? Like, is it somebody like, it sounds like their problem is more important than mine today. Right. And so sometimes I think there can be a little bit of like that story in the back of my mind, but like it's all the same thing at the end of the day, right? It's all like, no, like I have my moment and I've got to figure out how to work through it, like just the same as anybody else
Yeah, yeah.
here.
And
And like,
I'm pretty good at like calling people out too, and be like, haven't heard from you. Let's
oh,
really talk about something.
for sure, for sure.
That's my
But
job, right?
that's where that like the nerves versus like your ability to facilitate, like you made sure we all got heard, which is why it was so great. And then eventually like that little voice didn't, you know, come up as often. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think there is a lot of people that are nervous about joining a cohort like this, right? But and at the same time, I think a lot of women that join, they don't have they don't have a space like this, right? They're surrounded by other moms that maybe don't work, or they work part-time, or they don't have the same kind of internal ambition and drive. And so you just don't relate quite. Maybe they do work full-time, but it's just not the same level, it's not the same level of ambition. Or, maybe they had a mom that was a stay-at-home mom. And so like they don't have any reference to that whatsoever. And so finding a place where you can feel seen and heard like this, where you're relating to other working moms and working towards similar goals, like such a powerful room to be in. What was your experience?
Yeah, 100%. Like I felt like, because what I found with even some of my like working mom friends is that these specific challenges that we're going through, like, because sometimes it's just the little things in a day that are sort of bugging you, right? But but having that ability to both zoom in and zoom back out, like you don't always get that when you're just talking to your other friends who are going through the same thing. Like I think
Right.
that's the power of having the coach in the room to actually like talk you through it. And some of the other ambitious moms that I know are a little bit maybe hesitant sometimes, like even in friendships, to like be super vulnerable about what's going on, or maybe even just more specific about like what helps them or doesn't help them as well. Like sometimes it's just really hard to define that as you're running through your life and doing the best you can. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, couldn't agree more. Every time I've put myself in a room with other women that feel similar to me with similar goals, I've done that on a number of different occasions, from masterminds to coaching circles to social things, whatever it is, I leave feeling so empowered by that situation just because I'm so seen and heard, right? I just want women to put themselves in the rooms they want to be in. It just
yeah.
is, it's so powerful for us as women to gather like that. So I love that you had that experience. So what would you say? So we started with some self-doubt, some imposter syndrome, some not wanting to backtrack into old ways, to not working late hours, to not taking care of your body, all the things that you were sort of doing before that led you into burnout. And you didn't want any of those things. So start to describe for us the journey, right? So we're together for 3 months, and at least intensely for 3 months, where we're meeting weekly. And I picked that time frame really specifically because, having worked with so many hundreds and hundreds of women through a process like this, at this point, like 3 months is about the right amount of time to build some new habits. I'm not saying you're going to arrive at a 10 out of 10 on work-life balance at the end of 3 months. Likely you are not, but you're going to gain, you're going to make huge strides towards that. I would expect everybody in the group to maybe rate themselves at 7, 8, 9s, by the end of it. And always they have. Like I've never not seen that. So I'm curious for you though, as you think about the 3 months, at least the first 3 months, because then we'll get into what happened after that. But like within the intensity of that time frame, describe some of your journey.
Yeah. So I think there was definitely experiments along the way, right? So I kind of went back and looked at, like, I've gone back to, what was I thinking about in the January timeframe, or what was I thinking about in the February timeframe, and I could see where, so like the daily work, for example, or the daily kickstart, and really, I guess that was more like the February March timeframe. I was trying to figure out what habit I could make stick, and that's, in some ways that's kind of the hard, like that's actually really a hard part, because you have to pick up and play, and like you're trying to do something new, and finding the way that just becomes seamless is what really really counts at the end of the day. And so in those early couple of months, I would try one thing, and maybe I would get one of them, a couple of times a week. And then the next week, maybe I got like all 5 days. And I'm like, wow, it's so different if I do this all 5 days in a row. And then the next week, you know, insert excuse here. And like I wouldn't do one of the things that I knew was super helpful. But I did see that track and change over time. And having the weekly check-ins was super helpful. Just like that reminder of, hey, well, one, I'm not the only one that, you know, does these things and gets distracted and doesn't do them sometimes. So it's okay. Don't beat myself up over that. Like I can try again tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
But then two, just like seeing how like over time sticking with it, just the difference that made in the day to day was really impactful.
I'm just curious, how long do you think it took you to really realize, like see some of that impact maybe feel it in a fairly tangible way for you?
Yeah, I think somewhere between that 8 to 12 mark, like 8 to 12 week mark, I really could. You talk about being at this place where you have your automatic, kind of like the automatic habits, the automatic thoughts, and then actually like noticing before that automatic thought happens. I definitely got to that stage of it. So like maybe not as far along as some, but I got to that place of at least being able to notice things ahead of time, which made a huge difference. And I think that's where I kind of landed at that 12, certainly by the end of, wow, I've seen a huge improvements, but I still have some work to do here.
Yeah, I think there's and what what Amanda's talking about here, and I just want to kind of clarify for everyone is that we spend a lot of time clarifying what are some of the habits and the habits in terms of actual actions, people pleasing, perfectionisms, overworking, logging back on, whatever it might be. What are some of the habits and then the mindsets behind those habits that are getting in the way of you experiencing the work life balance that you really want? And we have to start by getting really clear on what those are and kind of identifying it and not kind of going into a shame spiral over it, which is I think what prevents a lot of us from change. Is we don't want to dig into it because we feel so bad about it, and then we judge ourselves about it, and then we don't ever actually get ourselves out because we're not willing to like really dig in. But we have to sort of identify it, and then what I teach is that these habits, both in your mind and in behavior, they kind of go in to change those. It kind of goes in stages, right? And so, and I teach it in such a way to help people like recognize which stage they're in on some level. Like it's like the habit change stages. I don't even know what I want to call it on this in this way, but yeah, being able to see those habits and the mindsets before they even happen is like that's what brings you a level of control, right? Because now that you see it, you can do something about it, right? And so, yeah, I think for a lot of people, that last month is a lot of like, oh, I see how this is happening. I see the spiral before it's taking place. I see how I'm getting myself worked up in a way that I don't want to. I see how I'm ruminating and where it's coming from, right? It's almost like you just have this other perspective that's kind of almost you separate yourself a little bit from it. I'm like, oh, I see this thing that's going on that I usually do. Hey, I can do something about that. And then, of course, you got to have the tools to do something about that, which is a lot of what we also do together.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, how else would you describe some of the journey in those first 3 months for you?
Yeah, I think I talked about it a little bit, but just that, when you first come in, and although maybe I couldn't immediately identify that I was a bit nervous about being part of a cohort, actually speaking in front of other people about what's going on, like it was a little bit nerve wracking, right? Like you're there, and we're all there for the same goal, but it's a room of people you've never met before, and
Yep.
so yeah, I think it took a little bit of time to be able to just open up, share more openly,
Mm,
be a little bit more vulnerable.
yeah.
And but always those are the days where you come back with such a takeaway, like some really key transformation. I feel like on those types of days when you're really able to share fully what's going on, and really get some tangible thoughts around it, and help for what to take away and what to do differently.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. It's almost like what you're saying is you're going to have the greatest success if you just go all into vulnerability, particularly in the moments
Yeah,
when you don't
which is
want to
really
be
hard.
vulnerable. Like that's
Yeah.
probably the moment to double down. You're going to get the most transformation in that moment if you're willing.
Yeah. Like if you feel super uncomfortable, just let it out. Like that's
That's
the right
it.
time.
It's like that it's like your body and your brain and your inner person saying, "Hey, it's time. Be seen. Let yourself be seen in this moment." I love that. It's so good. So you talked about the daily kickstart. That's one of the two anchor tools that we use in this program, right? We also have the work to home transition, but there's so many other kinds of things that you learn, tools that you learn. I talk about developing an entire toolkit on some level to help you through, habit change and creating, anchoring in and like being the person you want to be and all the things. What were some of the other tools that you found to be the most helpful to you?
Yeah. So another tool I found super helpful was the work to home transition. So this one specifically for me, coming up with what are those three things that are going to be my most important priorities for the next day. It let me start that next day super focused, a lot easier to let go of the miscellaneous emails that might have come in the night before, things like that, and just really knock that out. And then that paid dividends to not feeling guilty at whatever time I needed to leave that day because I've already knocked out the top three most important things to me. And then it's this like continuous loop because then I'm celebrating all the important things that I got done in my next work to home transition. And then I'm getting more done, so it's that one I felt was super helpful.
Yeah. I think it's so simple and yet, challenging to do on some level without the accountability, but really being able to not make a decision about what you're going to work on today. Like that decision, it's what we tend to do. You sit down at your desk, you look at your to-do list, like, okay, what am I going to tackle today? That moment is really ineffective if you're trying to do it right there, right? It's a very emotion filled moment. You probably feel overwhelmed looking at your to do list. You probably feel torn in like 20 different directions of what you want to do. So if you come into your workday already having pre decided that, right? Like not only do you feel more prepared, you can kind of calm down your brain in the evening. You're like, I got a plan for the next day. Like I've already thought it through. So your brain doesn't hold on to all of that. And then you can hit the ground running and you're way more effective with your time. And then to your point, you don't feel as guilty at the end of the day because you're like, I chose the most important things to work on and then I did those things, right? It's like that's what this is all about, is that, and that's a real like time management tool that's kind of built into that anchor practice, the work to home transition. So I love that you experienced that as well. So I'm curious, now that we're like February to November, however many months that is in, how consistent are you at those two anchor practices that we practice working on, weekly together?
Yeah. So the daily kickstart, that one has become just like a seamless part of my routine. I use voice recorder on my phone. And so like what's kind of neat about that on my phone, I can actually get a transcript as well. So I can go back and like look at what I had said. If I don't want to go listen to myself for 5 minutes or hear my voice again, I could just look at what was going on, which can be, just helpful, like grounding how far I've come at different points. The work to home. So I'll be honest, I'm not as consistent with the work to home transition. And I think this one, maybe it's that I'm more consistent than I think I am. I just do it in different ways. So sometimes I use that voice recording. Sometimes I will do this on my laptop before I go because, mapping out tomorrow's day, kind of like the easiest, the best place for me to do that is on my laptop. And so that one with, fighting the chatty coworkers on the way out, I just have not been as good about carving that time in the same way, which is like part of why I'm just not as consistent with it because I have, you know, I,
Yeah.
yeah, a
You have to
couple
do it in
different
a
ways.
couple of
Yeah.
different ways. Right. But even with the intention of it and kind of in the back of your mind, running through those questions that practice runs you through, even if you don't do it formally, I would imagine that has a pretty significant impact still in comparison to where it was before.
For sure. And that's where I'll say like I should probably give myself credit. I'm doing it in some form or fashion every single day. It just doesn't look exactly the same. So it's just a little harder for me to like track it mentally. Yeah.
Let's definitely give you a good grade on that then.
Yeah.
I love that. So good. So now you and I continued to work together, after the program. So I do offer kind of this continuation on an individual level. And then on a group level too, we started meeting monthly as well as a group cohort, but then you and I started doing some one-on-one as well. And so we've had a couple of months now that we've been doing that as well. So I just want to give credit to that too, because you doubled down even more so in terms of investing in yourself and investing in the continuation of the work we were doing. I'm curious, what's your reflection on that decision at this point, and why you decided to kind of get even a little bit more help and stay consistent at it?
Yeah, you just said the word, like consistency has been just the name of the game with this entire program. And something that's been a challenge throughout this is finding those ways that I can be consistent. And one of the reasons I like working with you is because you are so tangible and my brain loves to be in a bit more of the airy
Woo,
wherever
woo,
space. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, shiny thing.
Let's pull them all. Let's rein them all in, Amanda.
Yeah. And so I've just found that has been super helpful to have that ongoing support, kind of that reminder that, outside circumstances might change, but these tools are still here. these experiences are still really valuable. And, and just working with you kind of as these things are coming up of it's that helpful reminder of like, you've got this, like, yes, like you can think through this and then just that super efficient and effective way of saying like, you know, when we come out of these coaching conversations, I always have a takeaway. And that has been so helpful because we can home in on what is going to be the most useful for, this next month, kind of above and beyond some of these practices that I'm already doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And the takeaway is so important, right? Like I literally want you to walk away, whether we're having our group coaching conversation or we're having an individual conversation, like I want you to walk away with a takeaway and a next step, right? Like it should be a recentering moment that and in this case, you've like set it aside, you invested in doing that. And you're like, I have at least this time that I'm going to remember what my goals are, what the tools are, what's getting in my way, and it's going to be my recentering moment. And that's what I'm not going to do it on my own unless I have some accountability, and that is 90% of us, 95% of us. So it's huge that you gave yourself that, and that you've made so much progress. And one of the things you and I were talking about before we kind of hit the record button, I was talking about how all of the tools and like the conversations that we're having and the process that I teach, it clicks at different times for different people, right? I actually remember in your cohort, I interviewed two people from that cohort just 7 weeks in to be on this podcast because they both were just having this massive transformation really early on, right? Like tools just clicked for them and things were happening for them. And so you can go back and listen to it. It was Dana and Erica, right? It was like back in, I don't know, April or something like that. And that wasn't your story. It wasn't your journey, but here we are. You still got there. You just got there on your own time, right? You were willing to be consistent and you were willing to not give up. And you were willing, I loved the word you used early on. You said, I was experimenting. You were willing to experiment and say, this process is going to work for me. I believe in it. It's not going to look the same for me as it does for somebody else, but I'm still here. Like I'm still in it and I'm going to keep trying because these goals are so important. And so I love, I love that for you, that you still got to the like, aha, it's all coming together moment. But you created it for yourself by sticking with it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely recognized, because I think it was maybe like a month or two after our weekly meeting stopped that I was like, oh, actually, I would really like more, I would like to continue and have more support. And I remember we had one conversation and you kind of helped me uncover the thought that was holding me back. So it was like, this was me just still having maybe half of my foot in the water and not like actually standing in the water. And, you challenged me like, what would make you feel, because the question is about feeling like I belong. And it was like, well, what would make you feel like you belong? And I was like, oh, well, really, it's just like choosing to like belong here, actually. Like that's what I ended up taking away from that. Yeah. So I realized that I just had to decide to feel like I belonged. And once I did that, so many different things started to open up at work. I've been there since January. I got a promotion, and being there in that short amount of time, like I know for a fact, like that would not have happened if I were not in this, both the cohort, but then also kind of that continuous support that just really helped me kind of make it through this transition. Because this was a huge transition to be back full time, new mom, all the things, keep the rest of the life going. By the way, thank you for that because
You did the work. I held the container. I love it. You were a good team.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honored to be on this journey with you, Amanda. You well deserved. And I'm so excited for lots of things coming up and the ways you've been advocating for yourself. We've been having some of those conversations all because you got yourself out of imposter syndrome. You took back control of your time, your energy, your mindset, all the things. And you've been really working at being consistent at all of that. So much to be proud of in all of it. As we just kind of wrap up, are there any final like words that you might have to working moms that are sort of struggling in the same way that you were struggling, or maybe even just thinking about joining this cohort, but not really sure? Tell us your final thoughts.
If you are thinking about it at all, just do it. Like just do your future self a favor and sign up for this, or at least sign up for some coaching, something, because you deserve it. And this is hard, and we shouldn't have to do it alone. There's just not enough support on this journey for everybody, because a lot of us are doing this for the first time, or even if it's not, like, we're having to do it in our own way. And, once you do that and you find that consistency and that rhythm, like, sky's the limit. You can do anything.
I love it. So good. Do your future self a favor. That's such like, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows what that really means, but when you say it, like, it's so palpable to me, right? I know what that means. Like, to be like, your future self is the person that has already achieved the goal that you wanted to achieve, right? That is experiencing the balance that you want to experience, that is having the time with the family that you want to have, is getting promoted and still feeling like the mom that they want to be. Like, whatever that goal is for you, that's your future self, right? And this, do them a favor by joining this cohort and getting there faster and getting out of your own way and making it happen. So well put. I love it. Such a journey, such an amazing journey to be on with you, Amanda. I'm just so proud of you and excited to be your coach, and know we still have some time left together in our coaching. So I love that. And I just want to say to working moms out there, yes, please do reach out and book a call with me. It is a ambitious and balanced clarity call where we're just going to really talk about what this cohort is, all of the dates. We're going to make sure that you are the perfect fit for this program. And so that's how you can do that. And just as a reminder, I am in the middle of hosting some holiday balance and boundaries calls. So if you kind of want a taste of what coaching is like, super practical, we're going to talk all about the challenges that you have with work-life balance and the holidays in specific on a 30-minute one-on-one private call with me. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about tools to help you kind of maintain that balance. And so definitely check out the show notes, click on the balance and boundaries link, and that's going to take you right to that page where you can sign up for one of those calls. There's a very limited number of them. I'm only doing them through Thanksgiving, so definitely be sure to schedule your call now if you haven't done so already. Thank you again, Amanda, for being here. It's just such a delight. And to all the working moms out there, let's get to it. Hey there. If you're already feeling the holiday pressure starting to build, that full calendar, the expectations, the guilt, take a deep breath, because it doesn't have to be that way. Every year, I used to tell myself, I just need to make it magical for everyone. But by the time Christmas morning came, I was so tired of doing it all, I barely felt any joy. That's why I created Boundaries and Balance, your holiday survival session. This is a 30-minute private call where we'll get to the root of your stress during the holidays, get clear on what you actually want this season to look like, and create your personalized holiday boundary plan. It's just $9, and you walk away knowing exactly what to prioritize, what to release, and how to stay grounded when things get tough, so that you can actually enjoy the holidays instead of just get through them. I'm only offering these sessions through Thanksgiving, and there are a limited number of spots available, so don't wait. You can grab your session by using the link in the show notes. Let's make this the year where you feel calm, confident, and in control of your holiday season.